riding on a windy day. How do you handle it? Let's talk about that. Let's get cracking. Good moto morning, beautiful people. Welcome to Kraken's Garage. I'm your host Eric, and on Kraken's Garage we discuss about all the good things on 2 and 3 wheels. On today's episode we're going to talk about how I handle riding on terribly windy days. Today the wind gusts are somewhere in the neighborhood of around 30 knots. A knot is a little over a mile per hour. So I'm guessing probably 30-35 miles per hour wind bursts, and you'll be riding along and you'll come through this gully and come out to some fields, and all of a sudden out of nowhere you're kind of hit with a blast of wind that will... As a novice motorcyclist, you already are well aware a motorcycle is inherently unstable, and if you don't intervene on its behalf it could end up lying on its side. So what do you do when you find yourself riding on a windy day? Definitely give you a pucker moment. How do you ride under these conditions? 2-lane versus 4-lane or single lane? Where should you position your bike on the road? As a rule of thumb, most of us have been taught to stay on the right or left, because in the center of the lane is where cars drip condensation off the air conditioner or oil or coolant and that kind of thing. The way I handle it as I'm going down the road is depending on which way the wind is blowing. If it's blowing, say, from this side to this side, I will stay on the outside of the lane over here to allow room to push. Alright, because it will push you. All 800-900 pounds of this bike plus me and my gear, it will throw you around like a leaf in the wind. Mother Nature is relentless. Never forget that. With a headwind, you just suck it up and deal with it if you don't have a windshield. You probably won't notice a tailwind, but it will extend your stopping distance. You'll need to learn how to dance with the wind when it blows from the side. The type of motorcycle you're riding can have some effect on your experience with the wind. Bikes with handlebar mounted fairings can interact with the wind when it's blowing from certain directions. In this case, slow down until the wind shifts. Sport bikes with their side fairings can also be affected by the crosswinds. How you feel on a naked bike is largely a factor of riding position and the direction of the breeze. Headwinds on a naked bike suck. There's no way around it other than laying down on the tank flat track style. If the wind's coming from this side to this side, I will stay on the left side of the lane to allow room in case it pushes me over, to give me room to flex. Now the only caveat there is on this 2-lane road, if a semi is coming the other way, I will dip back over on this side because the wind is blowing that truck, and sometimes it'll blow them right into your lane. It is what it is. And then as soon as I get past, I will jump back over to the center lane. It's situational awareness, folks, and just know that you have to adjust to your environment to have a safer ride. The biggest issues for motorcyclists occur when the wind is blowing from the side. To a novice rider, it feels like it will push you off the road, and it will if you don't take some action. Fortunately, in some cases, all you need to do is lean the bike into the wind slightly by countersteering. In a light breeze, the effort is barely perceptible and somewhat automatic. You might not even notice that you're leaning into the wind. However, the key to proficient motorcycling is knowing exactly what you're doing and why. As the wind speed picks up, your steering input with the windward hand will need to increase. In extremely high winds, you'll need to be riding down the highway, visibly leaning into the wind, and once you get the hang of it, you can even have a little bit of fun. My worst experience ever with wind gusts, I was on my BMW K1100 RS. I was riding down the road, and out of nowhere I got hit with a massive wind burst that hit me so hard that I laid the bike over so far I was driving a foot peg and I was still driving straight. That'll give you an idea of how powerful that wind burst was. It'll put the fear in you for sure. So try to take it serious. We don't have it as bad here in Virginia as you get out into Wyoming, Montana, where you have these open areas where the wind can really pick up speed. coming off mountain ridges and coming down into the valleys get quite serious. Or if you live near the ocean, sometimes the wind blasts coming across the water inland are quite serious. How to counter steer. On days when the wind speed isn't consistent, you must maintain your vigilance in order to stay in your lane. Modifying your bike's lane with the wind's intensity, with a little practice, this will become second nature. However, don't get overconfident. You'll still need to watch your surroundings and anticipate how they will affect the wind flow. For example, riding over a bridge on a highway doesn't look like much, but it's enough to significantly reduce the wind's force for a moment. If you're ready, this is no big deal. You just lessen your steering input for a moment. Similarly, on interstates where the road cuts through hills and instead of going over them, the wind intensity can drop to near zero, and it can shift briefly at the opposite direction as you pass through the gap in between the mountain. Again, this is no big deal, but if you're ready for it, If you're not, it can be terrifying. Now let's talk about your bike and the wind. Certain bikes, especially touring bikes that have great big windshields, it will act like a sail. And I've had the wind push on the windshield so much that it's virtually pushing the bike around and steering it in directions that you don't want it to go. That's part of the reason why I tend to try to keep a lower profile windshield. And certainly depending on your bike, it varies. If you're riding a sport bike, it cuts through the wind like a knife. If you're riding a touring bike, it plows through it with a great big barn door on the front end of your bike. So it's situational differences between each make and model of bike. A Gold Wing is a lot more able to cut through the air than any Harley-Davidson that I'm aware of, for example. And I'm not picking on Harley-Davidson or whatever. We all pick and choose our poison. Just know its strong points and its weak points. When you are riding in windy conditions, if there was ever a time when your tire pressure has got to be right, it has got to be when you're riding in windy conditions, because you are susceptible to really riding up on curvature of the tire, whether you like it or not. Hills and large buildings aren't the only things that can cause the wind to change directions or become turbulent. Passing a truck can affect the wind in multiple ways. First, as you approach the truck cuts the wind for you, and you feel yourself being pulled faster in the low pressure zone behind the truck. If you're passing on the downwind side, the wind will drop to zero as you are beside the truck, but the thing that seems to catch riders out in the wind's force is multiplied as you reach the front of the truck and pass through a wave of air that is pushing. On a blustery day in which the direction of the wind is frequently changing, things can get pretty hectic as you react to every shift. In this situation, it might be prudent to slow down. Still, you're just employing the same technique of leaning the bike into the wind. Riding into windy conditions, like many aspects of motorcycling, is much easier once you understand what you need to do and when you need to do it. Take a day, ride a few hundred miles in the wind, and you will have mastered the technique. This is something that is rarely touched upon in any motorcycle class, so I thought it was relevant to bring up to the public. As I was riding on a very windy day on the Harley, and I was just getting tossed around like a potato chip. It was pretty bad. And when I thought about it over my lifetime, I've had some pretty harrowing experiences due to the wind. So I hope this video helps a few of you. This is another odd topic. Leave it to me to turn over all the weird stones in the motorcycle world. They're just unusual situations that have happened to me in my travels, and they don't teach you how to deal with these situations in any MSF class that I'm aware of. I could be wrong. I haven't been to one in a while, so don't quote me on that. All I'm saying is think your situation through. Know that you're going to have some possible issues when it's super windy, and place yourself on the road to give you a margin of error in case you get pushed around. It will save you a lot of grief and headache. I hope you give it some thought. Here's my ghost dog, Daisy Mae. She's here to remind me to wrap up this video. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. If you want to see more in the future, hit the subscribe button right down there in the corner. And remember, folks, go riding because it's good for you, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.